Just a heads up, folks, that in this episode we get into quite a discussion about the ethics of portraying violence against women and the artistic choices and ethical choices surrounding that. If that's not something you'll feel like watching today, that's cool. Come back and see us another day.
I'd rather not think about how it could get worse. It's already pretty bad.
Okay, how
and
about...
speaking of things getting pretty bad,
yeah, let's escape the actual fascism and talk about some fictional fascism.
That was a good segue.
Good segue.
Hi, friends.
Howdy, y'all.
Hey.
And welcome to Muppet Sex and Trauma. I'm Sara Ezzat. I make the Fat Culture Critic videos on YouTube.
I'm Josh Gosdin, and I'm a bigger nerd than I've ever been.
And I'm Aranock, and I make a bunch of things all over the place. I'm an artist, and you've probably seen my writing or my editing or my voice in somebody's video essay somewhere. But you can primarily find me at Aranock on any social media, Aranock.
Aranock is your favorite YouTuber's favorite YouTuber.
Which is why you're here.
Yes. And who is this who's also joining us?
Oh, this is Rue. It's one of my parents' dogs because I'm watching the dogs for them while they're out of town. So my girlfriend and I came down to the city my parents live in, and we're watching these puppies. They're very sleepy. And the other one is across the room. She's sleeping in a little bed.
Nah.
Adorable.
Well, we're more than halfway there. We've already done that joke like 3 times.
Fair enough. I mean, you're making progress, so
we are indeed living on a prayer. So we've come to the episode prayer. And folks, this one is a lot.
It's a fucking lot.
Content warning for a lot.
Yeah.
Reproductive trauma,
suicide, coerced medication, torture,
gaslighting,
baby killing, killing of main characters from an alternate universe, just
murder.
Gaslighting.
Yeah, it's a lot. So yeah,
drinking each other's blood in a strangely erotic way. Not really sure. See, it's like it makes sense when Scorpio does. I'm like, okay, yeah, that makes sense that he would do that with Crichton's blood. What is Crichton doing?
So, shall we do the summary?
Make it so.
Prayer was written by Justin Monjo and directed by Peter Andrinikadish. We open with Aeryn in a cell on a Scaran ship, and she is praying to a half-remembered god of peacekeepers, pleading for some sign that John will come for her. John does have a plan to find her. He's going to take Scorpius with him through the wormhole network back to Bizarro Moya, where he remembers hearing Sikozu Stark say Katratzi while helping Aeryn Gianna pass over. That's how they'll get their coordinates. Scorpio agrees to help in exchange for John's wormhole knowledge, but on one condition. John must join him in a completely innocent and not at all super gay, super sexual blood vow ritual. Aeryn's prayers are interrupted by the arrival of the Scaran Captain Janek and his Sebacean nurse assistant Verena. Janek asks Aeryn to tell him where Crichton is, and she tells him to go fuck himself. And so begins Aeryn's interrogation, starting with the Scaran heat probe. But when the nurse notices that Aeryn is more sensitive than expected, she becomes suspicious, and her tests confirm that Aeryn is pregnant. Arriving at Bizarro Moya, John and Scorpio find that Siko Stark has no memory of Katratzi. That knowledge exists in the Stakiri state, the glowy face thing that they use to help people who are dying. Scorpio figures, okay, if Siko Stark needs to be helping a dying person, he'll make a dying person, and promptly shoots Naranti Rigel. No luck, though, as Siko Stark needs to love the dying person. Janek is pleased about the pregnancy. He reasons if the baby is John's, he can get the wormhole knowledge from its fetal DNA. And so he begins torturing her to determine the baby's father. In between interrogation sessions, Aeryn is left in a room with 2 other pregnant prisoners. This vessel is part of a Scarran breeding project, and Aeryn gets to know fellow prisoner Morag, who says she's been impregnated 6 times, given birth 3 times, only to have the babies taken away. She talks about the pills she saved to end her life. Back on Bizarro Moya, and Scorpy has a plan. If all these folks are doomed to die shortly anyway, and Jon's memory is of Sicko Stark helping a dying Aeryn Chiana, then obviously the thing to do is to kill her. He has Jon almost convinced to pull the trigger, to kill the one who looks like Aeryn, to save his own Aeryn. But at the last minute, Jon can't. But Scorpy can, and does. On the Scarran vessel, after endless rounds of interrogation, Aeryn breaks and admits that the baby is Jon's. There was only ever Jon for her, really. Janek is thrilled and expects reward when they arrive at Katratzi, where a surgeon is waiting to help get the wormhole knowledge from the baby. On Bizarro Moya, Sicko Stark enters the Stakiri state and informs them that Katratzi is a base which conceals itself in the orbit of a certain moon. Scorpy knows the place, and so they finally have a location. Jon is still wrestling with the cost of all this as they head home to Moya. Aeryn finds herself alone with a free Morag. Morag offers to share her pill stock for them to die together. But first she wants to know, is Aeryn's baby really Jon's child? Aeryn grabs Morag by the neck. She says, I know you're a spy, but I want to know if you've ever really had a child. Morag admits that she hasn't, at which Aeryn kills her, relieved, as she says, to be orphaning no one. And then we close as Aeryn begins praying, this time to anyone, anywhere who can help. She will do anything to protect her child.
So, thoughts?
I think this episode is pretty great at demonstrating, like, where Crichton is at, which is not a great place, but also that, like, he has a limit. He has a point where he won't go farther than that. So we see him probably at the worst point in the series, you know, literally fucking murdering alternate universe versions of his friends. But he still has this one line he can't cross, which is someone that looks like Aeryn. And I find that so interesting in the ever recurring weird psychosexual relationship between Scorpius and Crichton. Especially when we start this not just like a blood pact, but like the most weirdly sensual blood pact in I think any piece of media ever. Like, you could cut that out, put the right music on it, and someone would think that's, like, the start of a very weird porn movie.
Yeah.
Let's be fair. He's a lot of Farscape.
Yeah. Like, yeah.
That thumb sucking blood packed goodness, that was just so unbelievably homoerotic.
It's also how the actors play it. Like, it's not just the action. It's it's the intuitiveness of both of them that makes it very particularly odd.
Yeah, and Jon is not wanting to do this in a very
It's very fascinating.
Yes.
It's a good time. On the other side of things, like, I think this is another episode of Farscape trying, as it often does, to engage with like reproductive health violation topics. It tries. I think, considering the time period that it was released in, it is interesting because this is a. It's weird to watch back after a lot of abortion rights have been retracted in the U.S. It feels like a show that's trying to comment on the social problems that would happen 15 years after it released and less on stuff that was happening in the moment. Not that like these dorks have never stopped trying to do this over the last few decades, but like I think when, 2000s, I think is probably the point where it was the least... People felt the most like, we're moving in a forward direction societally and nothing's going to be like... And I also find it interesting how the villains and fascism, it like tries to weaponize people's empathy to try to get information out of them. And, talking about like we see Crichton at an extreme point, we also see that with Aeryn as well. How far she will go to protect Crichton and the baby, but also it's the lie. Like I find it's just interesting. It's interesting how much this episode is about interiority, and for both of them explored very exteriorly in a series that often dives into people's minds very directly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like to see her on her knees praying feels like that could have been or should have been an internal monologue.
Mm-hmm.
But also, I think it does a really good job of, like you were saying, showing how pushed to the edge she is. Like, she's so desperate that she's willing to try anything, including unfounded leaps of faith that she previously never would have considered.
Yeah, it's again it's that thing of like it's effective upping the stakes for all of the characters by just showing what they're willing to do in extreme situations. It feels out of character compared to who you would normally expect them to be.
Sure.
Yeah, and it's also interesting because it tells you something about like peacekeeper society that isn't really touched on as often in earlier things, which is that there is some sort of religiosity there.
Yeah. And I think the nature of the God that she describes as being indiscriminately destructive
Mm-hmm.
fits really well with the Sabatian and the Peacekeeper ethos that we've encountered so far.
No, it
Because
feels
I can.
very it feels natural. It feels like, oh
Yeah.
yeah, this doesn't feel like some sort of like, oh, we're retconning to add something in. No, it just feels like, oh, it makes total sense that this society would have this type of belief system lying around in the background.
And then
Yeah.
would form their kind of like goose stepping around that.
Mm.
Yeah. And also, like, it doesn't sound like this is a religion that is currently practiced. It's like this is sort of a half remembered piece of the background mythology.
It has the same energy as like someone praying to gods from old pantheons that haven't really, not that there aren't anyone in the modern day but that aren't like widespread religions,
Mm.
and I think that again it deepens that sort of feeling. And I think Farscape does this in a lot of different ways throughout different episodes, a feeling of a lived-in universe that has existed for a long time
Yeah.
with societies that have had change. And I also think that's interesting because so much of the series is also about how much like the peacekeepers and all these different groups can change. They could change. They could be different. And Aeryn is sort of an embodiment of that. So to have Aeryn pulling back to something that shows how peacekeepers have changed already is kind of an interesting, tiny little building block of that.
I also, one of the things that I find interesting about this episode is we're delving into scarens, like showing the Scaran breeding programs and stuff. And we've heard a lot and seen a lot at this point about the peacekeepers' view of things like interracial relations and mixing and how they are very anti that.
Mm-hmm.
And here we have the Scarens, who are at least as fascist, and they specifically use a different type of eugenics. Mm-hmm. They're trying to breed to cross things, sort of deliberately mixing, and it's like both serve the same kind of fascist agenda. They both have the fascist authoritarian thing. And I think it tells something about fascism that at its core, it's always the same, and it's always about domination.
Mhm.
And whether it's using the fear of other or the exploitation of the other, either way, it comes down to domination.
It also shows how well the show understands fascism as a belief system that is very opportunistic and will function in whatever way is best for achieving its terrible goals. And I think it also shows how much fascism is a fundamentally like self-destructive ideology, and in that like both the Skarns and the Peacekeepers, that they are fundamentally at odds with the entire rest of the universe, including each other. Like fascists can't even work with other fascists because there's such a
they don't mix.
And it also it's the thing of like fascists will expand their circle of other when it is convenient, when they need people to do certain things. And we see that kind of the whole thing with the Skarns, right, is that like they're struggling to maintain their numbers and things, so they're using other species because they've been put into position where they can't keep that interior circle as tightly. And I might have been misremembered bits of the series, right? So correct me if I'm wrong. It's been a while, but whereas the Peacekeepers, because they have those numbers, are even more exclusionary and even more interior. But they even them, they'll use
Scorpius.
They'll use Scorpius. Like it's all opportunistic because they don't actually have any sort of meaningful beliefs. They just have domination and violence. Like it's why fascism as an ideology is just as easy to track by semiotic signs as it is by like the actual ideological pinnings of it.
Yeah, it's all about power, domination, and the aesthetics of power and domination.
Yeah, and strength. It's all about showing strength, and to the point where they will act in ways that actively detriment the goals they're trying to achieve just to maintain these like posturings of strength. We see that throughout the earlier seasons, especially with the Peacekeepers, and we see that here with the Skarns in terms of like how they torture, where they'll potentially sacrifice the information they're trying to get just because they want to posture about how strong they are. Like,
yeah,
I mean that was Krasis' downfall.
Yeah,
like that was what caused him to go off the rails, especially like as he detached from the Peacekeepers, and it was just about his own agenda because he was sort of his own like little
the ego of it,
fascism,
and he was a fascism of one. Like really, we were talking about that sort of, they have to create the circle of interior and what's outside, and he just got really tiny with the circle.
And the way that he continued to try to pull Aeryn into his orbit is that
because
expression
he needed
of that power and control.
Yeah. And I value how the show very consistently shows that like fascists' beliefs actively make them terrible at being horrible in some ways, which is, I think, is kind of funny. It's kind of brilliant in that it recognizes fascists not as like genuine, like they're scary and violent, but they're also not. They're kind of laughably stupid, self-destructive, and still capable of doing all of these horrible things. And I think that's something a lot of media doesn't manage to like thread the needle on, of understanding the absurdity of them, but also understanding the serious threat of them.
Yeah,
it's kids with guns.
Yeah, toddler with a baseball bat.
Oh, and that's very much what the Skarn leader feels like, is a toddler with a baseball bat. And he's got his little advisor nurse there who is a beaten down oppressed person who is so doomerist, really, that they like. I think she has a line about because I know nothing will change, there's no point in like not participating because I can just survive, and that's all you should try to do, is just accept that you have to like do nothing but survive.
Whoever is on top, it won't be me.
Yeah. And that also says something about how fascism functions on destroying hope. It needs people to give up on hope, and fascists often will use the very groups they're trying to exterminate and force them into the position of being complicit or acting as like the nurse or things like that, which is a very honest representation of a very ugly element of concentration camps generally, not just in Germany, but in the US and Canada. Like every instance of concentration camps, they would recruit people within the camps to spy on everybody else and to be servants. And we see two expressions of that here. We see it with the nurse and we see it with the fake mother that Aeryn ends up killing. And there's something that really hits hard about Aaron's line, like, I'm glad that I won't be orphaning anyone. Because especially, like, this is not long after she lost her mom.
Yep.
Her mom that was awful and terrible and fascist. And there's, like, no redeeming qualities of it, and yet there's still, like, a complicated pain. If you've ever had an awful, messed up, terrible family member you had to cut out and then they pass away, there's still complicated feelings there. And I also think it says something about Aeryn's ethos. It's like, she was going to kill that person no matter what, but she at least has some relief that she's not, like, causing other people pain and doing this.
Yeah, it's I love Claudia Black's performance in this. She's always so good, and this one she just like she just every scene. Yeah, so yeah, let's break down some things. Let's talk about the nurse, Vrina. She is a interesting character.
She is. So one of the things that I think is significant also is the way that she expresses her defeatism when she says, I don't know who's going to be on top, but I know it won't be me. That's still, like, the reason why she was able to be beaten down is because she's still in the mentality of domination.
Yeah.
And, like, if I can't win, then what's the point of playing? As opposed to any kind of empathy or compassion, or, well, even if I can't win, at least I can help, like that kind of a
or maybe
kind of
I can cause some change. No, it's very much built in the language that she can't be at the top of the pyramid, so there's no point in fighting for the top of the pyramid. So she'll just sit at this nice little rung down here in the hierarchy where she knows she has people below her. And this is the mentality that, like, honestly drives a lot of modern conservatism, and particularly, like, in the US and Canada, the sort of Republican movements, the Western separatism, the Freedom Convoy, like all these types. A lot of them are desperately seeking a way to keep other people below them because they see no way of becoming the top of the pyramid. So they're just happy if they get to stay in the middle. And I think that's where like a lot of privileged, like a lot of privileged people that are still disenfranchised in certain other ways, how they fall into maintaining these systems mentality-wise is they accept their position. And this is a fascinating thing. A lot of people who believe in these hierarchies don't believe in them because they think they'll get to the top. They believe in them because at least they know their place. And it's so fucked up. And it's still coming from that same mentality of domination first.
Yeah, like figures like Rishi Sunak or my brain forgets names right now, but the premier of Alberta, who's a woman conservative, female conservatives. It's like the sort of the people who, they can't imagine that the hierarchy could ever be, that there could be anything other than the hierarchy. And so they're just trying to find their little spot that's safe, that they can get what they want. The gays against groomers type people.
Well, there's
so many of them.
I hate
Latinos for Trump.
Yes.
Yeah, the thing that really sticks out to me right now is all of the moronic cis gays who I refuse to call them queer because
Because they're not.
They have no engagement with queerness as a politic and as a way of being, and I do actually think that they can call themselves queer if they want, but if you have none of the fucking ethos and none of the politics of it and none of the connection to the history and the community, but they're all mad because they're losing gay marriage, which is fucking awful. It's awful that this is happening. I mean, I predicted it ages ago. I wrote in a script for Jesse that we're going to be shooting soonish, but I wrote this like last year, where I just assumed that by the time we get around to shooting this script, Trump would have already overturned gay marriage. And I was right. I don't feel good about it. One little Cassandra Apollo ball to be holding, where I'm like, oh, this is me from a year ago, just fully predicting what is happening right now. But there's a little frustration, a little thing in me that I don't think is maybe the prettiest thing, where I'm just sitting here like, none of you fucking raised a hand, not a fucking word in support of trans people, are actively participating in shoving us down, Pete Buttigieg. And now you're like, oh, we're getting our marriage taken away. And it's like, yeah, we told you. We told you. And it's the same thing that happened with TERFs and abortion, where they actively helped put in laws that changed the precedent such that bodily autonomy now no longer is a right. And once you've removed that, guess what happens? Abortion gets removed as a right as well, because you can't extricate one marginalized group's struggle from others. But these people are always convinced that, like, well, if they're shoving you down, then I'm fine, and then they're never going to come for me.
Well, it's the fallacy of the well-behaved toady.
Yeah,
like I encounter it, unfortunately, in the spheres that I enter into, specifically thinking again about Latinos for Trump. And it's like, well, but I'm one of the good ones. I'm not misbehaving the way that all of these people are, so I won't be treated poorly.
The hundreds of ICE stories that have been coming out, where it's like Trump supporter's wife is getting deported, or what, which also like tells you a lot about these types of people, because honestly, there's a very strange relationship between fascist figures and things and the groups they hate and the people they're willing to sexually objectify. Like, it's all I'll say is I know enough people who've worked sex work who are trans to know some things about a lot of Republican politicians, conservative politicians' tendencies. Also, like, there's a reason why Republican conventions crash the Grindr app. And it's not because any of these people are queer or closeted or something. It's because deep down, like, we talk about this domination thing, and I really do think that, like, they don't see the whatever group they are denigrating, they don't see us as people, and in not seeing us as people, they feel comfortable exploiting us. Like, a lot of the way that trans women get treated, honestly, comes down to like treating us almost like sex toys or sex dolls and not like human beings. And it's also why they feel very comfortable doing a lot of violence, and it's why like a lot of the murders of trans women are from intimate partners in some way. But we see this with the Scarans, right? Like the breeding programs are another expression of this type of using a group that you see as less than person, in this case, because they're aliens, but less than Scaran or less than human or whatever, and they're perfectly happy to sexually exploit them, or in this case, like, exploit them for pregnancy. But they are not treating them as people when they do that. There is no personhood given to them.
Well, I mean, this is something that always happened in colonialism. Is they were to talk about things like sleeping dictionaries, which they'd use a local girl to have sex with and to teach them the language.
American soldiers in pretty much every single conflict in the last 100 years have done stuff like that. I mean,
it's fundamentally fascists see everything as about domination. So if they see sex as about domination, not as sex, not as all the things it can be. This is why you get the from these same people, you get the discourse about, fellas, is it gay to enjoy sex with your wife?
No, it is, because they can't imagine a world where a woman is something above an object of exploitation and domination.
By the way, I was just saying, I've thought for a while that Cassandra must have been a trans woman.
No, she's a figure of ancient Greek myth that trans women enjoy referencing because we're so often right about things, but no one wants to listen to us. So we'll say, this thing's going to happen. And then everyone will go, no, it won't. You're being bad and mean, and don't do that. And then like 2 years later, the thing happens and we all go, hey, you could have listened to us this whole time. And then they go, you're so meanie. I don't know. It's a frequent pattern. It's Turbine going, hey, Jubilee is like kind of supporting fascists, don't go on them, say all this stuff like 2 years ago, and then everyone else came around like a month ago when they had literally like 25 talking to Mehdi Hassan, I think.
As we're talking about we won't call them queer cis gays who've been saying that, who are shocked that they're coming for gay marriage. On the other hand, queer folks and a lot of other marginalized people have been saying for ages, they are coming, that we have to stand with the trans folks because they will come for, not because they will come for us sex, but like we all stand together or we all lose.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Like, but you know, it really breaks off into the people who can see that and can imagine something other than the hierarchy, and the people who feel they have to find a place in the hierarchy. The people like Farina, the nurse, that all they can do is find their safety in the hierarchy because they cannot imagine a world without it.
Yep.
And coming back to dominant thinking and violence and stuff, I think we also see this with Scorpius. Like, Scorpius is someone that could potentially, if they let go of some of these precepts, actually form a real solidarity with Crichton and the crew. And and we know they won't get out of the trap that they leave for themselves. But I do find Scorpius so interesting, especially because we get Brain Scorpius, whose name is escaping me.
Harvey.
Because we get Harvey, which shows that like they could potentially have that in them. Even someone that awful can change. They just have to choose to. Scorpius is not going to choose to.
the match with Scorpius is that like Scorpius and Sikozu have a thing. They're absolutely banging they're and they've formed an alliance, and yet Scorpy has no trouble killing the people that the Sikozu Stark version, loves in front of them, and Sikozu has absolutely no worries about just getting the fuck out of there. When there's a slightly threatened, they're like they're not. She's not arguing, we got to stay here for Scorpius. Mm-hmm. She's just like, I'm threatened. We're out of here. No, we have to leave. We have to leave. Whereas John and Aeryn, very unlikely, desperate hope of seeing each other again. And yet they are holding on to the idea of each other and loyal to the idea of each other. So much so that Aeryn is desperately making up other imagined men that she could have had sex with to protect.
Doing everything she can, like literally stressing her brain out and causing her genuine emotional distress just in the hope that it might maybe protect Crichton. And so they compel me. They interest me. They're dynamic. It's interesting.
The most interesting opposite sex pairing written.
They compel you. I like that.
No, they because I think that unlike a lot of straight romances in TV, they don't compromise Aaron's character, which almost like every pairing of a strong woman in any piece of media, whether or not the handling of strong is good or not, they inevitably like put them with a man to tidy them up, to and then they become this like submissive like little doe or something, and that is not what at all happens with Aeryn.
Or you get like a kick-ass woman and this like schlub guy that she helps through things.
Yeah, whereas
Sure.
like Crichton and Aeryn are partners.
Yeah.
Yep.
They also like have compelling conflicts that make sense for the characters and don't feel forced. I've had a lot of straight romance in media. They're like, we gotta have drama, guys. What can we do to force drama? Miscommunication. Something really just forced, and it just shouldn't feel natural to characters at all. And it's almost always like something that makes all the fans go, and this woman's evil and the worst. And it's like, it's bad writing. She's not evil. And
you're describing every American sitcom ever.
Every American sitcom, a lot of American sci-fi as well. Like, it is an actually compellingly written romance with real conflict. And conflict that comes from the characters and comes from character traits that existed well before they were in a romantic context.
Yes, Strange New Worlds.
I hate that show.
I haven't seen season 3 yet.
I haven't watched season 3 yet either, but Jessie
God.
been venting to me about things in season 3 as she was watching the like press release, like prime, like, before everybody else gets to see it and it goes public. Just
hold on.
so
yes,
yeah.
I will not start because I will not stop. But yeah, contrived emotional drama. Yes,
Great Spock.
It is a thing. And there's been a bit of contrivance with Aeryn and John, but mostly most of it has come from somewhere real.
I found the scenes of Scorpius and John on the alternate Moya genuinely disquieting and uncomfortable. Yeah. And I had a really hard time, I guess, enduring those scenes, because watching John, and then eventually Scorpius had to do it for him, but like killing Aeryn was just so like very fucking dark. Like in some ways, the darkest thing about this episode emotionally. And it was an uncomfortable.
It's an episode of dark emotions. I mean, yeah, like I'm always torn with. I think this episode mostly handles the violence against women well. I feel like it doesn't. But there is a lot of it. Like there's a lot of it in this episode, and it's happening in both stories, kind of parallel. Like, because this is a gender swapped version of the universe, which also says something about the genders of the people on the ship. But most of the people getting shot in alternate Moya are women. And then
specifically and explicitly treated as disposable.
Yes. And again, I do think that, like, I understand its purpose in terms of showing where John will go really far for Aeryn, maybe too far. And I honestly think that's a smart thing to put into the heads of the audience before a finale, that you're not sure where this character is going. You just like you give that little bit of thing of like, John's not completely gone. And that choice to have John not kill Aeryn is very specifically.
It was a fascinating echo of that one time that John killed Aeryn. Because here again we have Scorpius in John's ear telling him to kill a version of Aeryn. And it's easy for me to imagine that he was thinking about the time that Harvey took over and he shot Aeryn down. And it, like, the way he described it afterwards, he was like, I was trapped inside, kind of a thing. So, like, of course he couldn't do it because he did it already. He literally
He already had to
did this.
experience the body doing that when he didn't have control. And
yeah.
And he shot fake Aeryn in a couple episodes ago.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. No, I think like it's unsettling. I think it's unsettling for good reason. I do think that like the show comes close, but I do it's tough. I have mixed emotions on how it handles violence against women.
It's appropriately horrifying in this episode, but it's also
it is appropriately horrifying.
Undeniably present.
It's
and it is written by a man and directed by a man, and it does have that sense. I mean, yeah, there have been, the last time we had a woman writing an episode about sexism, it was terrible.
Oh yeah, well, women can fuck it up too. Anyone can fuck it up. J.K. Rowling exists, but
yeah,
but I think it's one of those things where it's like it's on the cusp of doing something that some have labeled like man bad horror, but that sort of thing of like, look how awful this mistreatment of women is. Let's show it. Let's show some more.
Yeah,
not really like saying anything beyond that. Whereas I do think because like it's not perfect, but there is a lot more interiority being given, at least to Aeryn, and to a lesser extent the nurse even.
We see the nurse actively grappling with the choices that she's making.
Yeah, exactly. Like I think that's why Farscape for me, it never dips into like, oh, I'm actively. There's elements, but more so than like any other piece of media. There's no moments where I'm just like, fuck this show, completely.
It doesn't feel exploitative.
It doesn't feel as exploitative as most things would handle it, and I honestly think that like, especially with some of the things that we see Crichton go through, it does feel somewhat even. I just think it is an episode full of violence against women. I do think that it is explicitly saying things with that, and I don't think that it is glossing over it. So I would land in it is a mostly well handled, but I don't think it maybe considers enough. Like the alternate universe Dargo that they shoot, like that is such a like, and it's gone. It just happened. And it moves so fast. And I'm so torn on if that's really good because it says something about the way that violence can be almost too casual and too easy. And we've just shot multiple women on screen who have a sentence.
and in that case, like it's as close as we get to seeing a trans woman. Because we are told she. John, reinforces
corrects
the pronouns.
Scorpius.
Yes.
Yeah, Scorpius misgenders her, and John corrects, which I think isn't an intentional commentary.
No.
But it is
it's there.
It's there. You can definitely read it there.
Like the intention is that they got to choose who they played in like they got some input into who they played in the Bizarro world, and the actor who plays Dargo was like, I want tits. So that's how he ended up as Jewel.
Relatable sentiment.
Like and like it's just it's sort of like these things have fallen into place, that we have what to us looks like
a reading that is available, that is built on the text purely.
That is kind of a C-spot run level reading.
Yeah.
There it is.
Yeah, there it is, and that's not really thought through, but it could have meaning. But it
always
there.
Feels like Farscape is trying to say things about gender and bodies, but it's just like a little uneducated. But the heart's there.
Yeah,
which I will personally, I will grant a lot. Yeah, I'll grant a lot of leeway over a poorly executed, ambitious idea, or a poorly executed thoughtful commentary.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's I don't know, you can I also think it's worth like noting how many women are involved in the project too, and clearly like found value in what this thing is saying. And so like I think it is better than say some of it. Like I'm working on this Android script for Jesse. There's an entire section in it on Alex Garland, which I think people are finally starting to realize that Alex Garland's politics suck. It took people a long time.
I don't know who he is.
Film director, he made that like Civil War movie with A24 that had AI posters. He made that Warfare movie like last year.
Okay.
He made Ex Machina and Men.
Right.
And Ex Machina was fine when I first saw it, but I was also like way younger. I was maybe 14. But going back to it, it's a movie that wants to say something about misogyny that is just misogynist. Like, it is just a misogynist film. And I have a very long, very complicated and thought out, well-written thing on it that'll be on Jesse's channel eventually. But the gist is that, like, it's sort of like benevolently sexist, but it still views women as this sort of lesser, and it treats a woman saving herself as a horror monster. Like that's fundamentally what the film is about. Is what if a woman got revenge for getting sexually exploited? How scary is that? Like that's the plot of Ex Machina. If you really it's a film where Black and Asian bodies, like East Asian bodies, are used purely as props. None of the robots who aren't white are named. They don't get speaking lines. We know that they're just sexually abused by this main person. And so when you put it in the context too of Alex Garland's books, which are really Orientalist, I didn't know about these until I started researching this, and I got into some of the like other writers' pieces on it, and they go into some of the stuff, and it's like Garland's defenses against criticisms around Orientalism and how he handles people in his books tells you a great deal of the type of person they are. And that energy isn't what I get from Farcape. Because I do think that you can be intending good and genuinely trying and still just completely fuck it up so bad that you're almost reinforcing the other mentality. And there is a reading of Ex Machina that very much is valid within the text because of how it functions, that is like almost a pro-incel message of, you know, look at this poor white boy who gets exploited by this woman who then murders him. Executive, you know, like, because he's the point of view character, and that point of view character is always objectifying. The camera is always objectifying the women in the film.
What I was thinking about when we're talking about like the handling of violence against women, I was thinking about Law and Order SVU, which is supposedly about, you know, protecting.
One second, let the dog back in. Okay. I'm so sorry. She's scratching at the window, all sad. Here's Ripley.
Hi, Ripley.
Hi, Ripley.
She is my childhood puppy. Well, I got her when I was in high school. And she's my baby.
Did she survive multiple alien attacks?
Yes.
Good puppy.
You're saying SVU? Yes,
SVU, which is supposedly about protecting and you know, saving victims. And like, I know that some women and victims find it really cathartic in the same way that some do with true crime, of like the sense of a thing being solved. But so often it is addressing the idea of violence against women by showing in excruciating detail violence against women, and or talking about it in excruciating detail that feels like there's an almost element of fetishism going on. Like there is a way in which and I don't get that from this. Like all the violence we see against all the reproductive violence we see is through the eyes of the women experiencing it.
That's exactly what I mean by like the interiority of women is actually SVU is a perfect counterexample because SVU, we pretty much never, ever, ever hear beyond maybe a sentence or two before they're murdered anything about these women or who they are. The episodes are about violators. They are not about women who experience violence, and they have very little empathy. They are objects, like literally objects that allow the story to happen. And I also think that like SVU, because it works so closely with cops, like it does reflect the view of cops on women, which is not good. Wild.
They are capable of better, because there are a couple episodes that do genuinely show things from the women's perspective and do genuinely show empathy. Like one that won an award, which shows a woman going through a rape kit. But 99 points, not whatever.
The majority of the show.
It's propaganda show, and it is like fetishizing victimhood and
it's
being exploitative in the way that it shows violence against women.
There's a reason why most of the roles that trans women could get in the 2000s and the 90s were as victims on these types of shows. And it's not because these shows create empathy for those victims. Like, I would highly recommend it. Everybody should watch Disclosure. It's a really phenomenal documentary on the history of transphobia in film. And it talks a lot about this with the actual actresses that went through this experience. And truly, it tells you a great deal about the perspectives of like not just SVUs, not like singular one of them. It's like all of them. You know, CSI, SVU, all these different ones. So frequently, this is the format of the episode. A woman's in a place and she says maybe one sentence to a friend or whatever and goes to the spot where she gets murdered, and then she gets murdered. And now she's an object on the floor, and then she's an object in the lab, and like she's not a character.
And it was very interesting, the episode of Pose that kind of opened with that happening to a character, and then the entire episode is her funeral, at which her ghost is present, which is I know this controversial episode because some people are like, but you're still doing the thing, but also they were doing the thing from her perspective. So
it's complicated. Commentary. I think it's a commentary on the thing. I generally like Pose, so I'm biased. I do need to finish watching the series. I just hit a point where it was too depressing. I was watching it in the middle of the pandemic, when I worked on pandemics for things, and it starts getting really about AIDS, and I'm just like, I'm too depressed about these topics.
I think the final season, they really wanted to give people hope, to the point where occasionally the storytelling is a little fairy tale. But they are, which is a land that anything Ryan Murphy can sometimes land in, a sort of fairy tale. But I still think sometimes people need a hopeful story, even if it is a bit fairy tale. I don't know.
I think fairy tales have a deep and great value to them. And I mean fairy tales in the modern context. I just think it becomes a problem when all you want to do is exist in fairy tale.
Yeah, and it's not for me. It's not for me to judge. I think when it comes to Pose, I know I very much there's aspects I adored and aspects I didn't. At least they ditched the boring straight couple in the first season.
Yeah, no, I was glad when they ditched them. No, the elements of Pose that I really adore. I'm not generally a fan of Ryan Murphy. If anything, I'm a hater, but I genuinely liked quite a bit of this show. It was one of those things where I found out Ryan Murphy worked on it, and I was like, really?
Oh.
I'm shocked.
I find he often has really good ideas that go into that fail on execution.
Yeah. But sometimes like you get the right creator in the right circumstance and you get something amazing. Like, I genuinely love American Psycho the musical. It's written by the guy that created Riverdale. if you have ever wondered why Riverdale is the way it is, it's because this guy is only good at writing Patrick Bateman. and honestly, like a lot of Riverdale makes a lot more sense when you're like, oh, this guy wrote. I mean, he's not the only person involved. Obviously, you have a different composer and like lyricist, but American Psycho the musical really, really works when it really, really shouldn't. And Riverdale, which is just like a teen drama adaptation of Archie comics, really, really should work and does not because of the very strange choices that he makes. And it's truly one of those things where I think certain artists are only good when they're in the right circumstance. And when they're not in that circumstance, it becomes a mess. Or if they're not working with the right people. And I think sometimes you can get I am firmly of the belief that Zack Snyder could make a good movie if he had the right editor and writer. And he was not allowed to touch the writing. He's not allowed to do anything with the writing. And he just directs. And I say that because I have many criticisms of the messages and politics of his films.
But they always look beautiful.
But he's not particularly aware of his own messages. Because he's an aesthetics guy. He loves aesthetics. And the problem is, if you only love aesthetics, is that you end up making fascist art because that's all that fascism is. It's just aesthetics with no substance. And I think because he has no deeper thought about. All right, I'm sorry, we're way off on a tangent, but he has no deeper thought. There's the reason why he made Rorschach so positive, quote unquote, in the film version is because he just thinks Rorschach is aesthetically pleasing, and he didn't think about what Rorschach actually represents as a person. And Rorschach you're not supposed to like Rorschach. I do think that Alan Moore kind of did a bad job adequately expressing how much you shouldn't like Rorschach as a person, but I do find it really funny how much he's just people come up to me and they say, I like Rorschach, and I think, what the fuck is wrong with you?
I think good storytelling so often, as good art in film and television, in scripted media, is about the collaboration. And right team, right place, and you'll get something great. And I think a big part of what makes Farscape what it is Claudia Black. Because they've just been, it's very much seat of the pants writing, and they really take input from the actors. And so Claudia and more than anybody else, but the other actors as well, really ended up, giving shape to Aeryn, and she is amazing. And
I think that's partly why a lot of this stuff works much better than you would expect. If you write it on paper, right, that the primary woman is locked up for multiple episodes with minimal agency, it doesn't sound good on paper.
Locked into a weird stirrupy thing with other
pregnancy focused stuff.
Yeah,
and they're going to show an abortion.
Yeah,
or attempted one at least. Yeah,
it's fake, but that was too far for the English censors. That actually gets left off in the UK airing.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, no, it's a thing where you can tell that the women who are involved in the project are involved with the project in a meaningful way. And I think it also it helps because it doesn't have, that feeling when you watch something and you can tell that the woman in the scene is uncomfortable with having to perform the scene and is not uncomfortable because she's performing uncomfortable. I don't know how to describe it, but it's a specific energy you get in places.
Yeah.
You can see it in Shelley Duvall in The Shining.
The sort of rabbit in the headlights.
Yes. Yeah. That it would be uncomfortable if you were watching the behind the scenes footage. That's.
I mean, it is when you watch the behind the scenes footage in The Shining.
Yeah. The Shining is my greatest example because people get really pissy about it. But I'm Kubrick was kind of awful, actually. I think Kubrick is a bad director. I think he is a technically skilled artist. I think he's a bad director because he treats his actors like shit, and there's so much like documented stuff on how.
Imagine if someone had made him treat actors like humans. We might have gotten even like imagine the art we might have gotten out of that.
And that's not me saying like artists shouldn't. There should never be a filmmaker that like does a bajillion takes to get just the right one or things like that. Like there's a way of doing that doesn't involve speaking to and treating people like garbage. It means you just do more shooting days and you have them actually be reasonable length and you don't scream at people and don't psychologically mess with them. But yeah, like Farscape puts a lot of people in really uncomfortable positions, and I don't think.
One thing I would note is that there is nothing sexy or glamorous about any of the women.
Not at all.
You're right.
The exploitation is not male gazy.
That thing I was talking about with Ex Machina, where it is exceptionally like ogling of the sexual violence. This is not. This is very actively trying to not be even slightly in a show that is almost always like putting that to a 10. It is a sharp contrast, and it tells you something about. I mean,
Sikozu Stark is still like looking beautiful, but other than that, like and like none of them are glamorized.
Yeah, you don't get this like. There's this bit in Blade Runner, and I love Blade Runner as a film, but there's this bit in Blade Runner when he shoots her and she like majestically crashes through the glass while dying. Here, it's like the body crumples. Like there's no glamorization of even the women as they're dying. Like I just keep coming back to this thing of like Farscape dances on a lot of edges of things or balances, some pretty heavy stuff. And I don't feel like it slips off the line very often. Like I feel like it rides it pretty nicely.
Yeah, it's a difficult tension to find, and yet they do find it because so much of what we see here could be absolutely horrible, and it's very, very dark.
It's saying things about very dark, very violent, very awful things. It doesn't make you go, oh.
And the thing is, if you're going to talk about fascism, it requires some ugliness.
Yeah, I honestly prefer. I think people need to be more open to media exploring messed up things. I think. I talked about this in my Death of the Author video. I think there's sort of a two extreme poles, which is the anything goes. Let's not critique anything. Wah wah wah. If you tell me there's a problem with the stuff that I watch, and then the other end where it's like. If you even talk about the topics at all, I'm gonna get mad. And this like people who act like depiction is endorsement, and to talk about certain things, you have to actually depict those things.
But there are choices about how you depict them. Like one I was really impressed with recently is The New Look, which was a look at the end of fascism in France, through the eyes and sort of the recovery. And it looks at it through the eyes of Dior, which is why it's called The New Look, and other people in the fashion industry, and as well as Chanel, who is largely in the find out stage of fuck around, like trying to evade responsibility for her complicity in the Nazis, because it's really interesting exploration of like what people will do to get along or to how different people did approach fascism. And it's really interesting because I really found it interesting, among other reasons, because so much of what of media about fascism at the moment has been about the rise of fascism, and this was about the death of fascism and like sort of the recovery from. And a big part of it is about Dior's sister, who was a member of the resistance and who is interrogated and goes to a concentration camp, and they depict very little of what she experienced, but they show her dealing with the emotions about what she experienced, and her like being able to talk about some of it, and like that. I recommend watching it. It has Ben Mendelsohn in as Dior, and an excellent cast, a really excellent cast, and yeah, it's very very gay, as he was, and it's a really interesting the choices you make about how you depict
it's everything. And I think a lot of times like this show talks a lot about sexual violence, but it does not depict it in a way that you could even attempt to like see as fetishizing or engaging that. Like it knows when to leave things to implication. It knows when to.
There are times it gets it wrong, and oh boy, does it really stand out!
Oh, it does.
This season,
there is some episodes I don't like.
The whole thing with Greyza had, even textually talked about it as exploitation, and filmed it like loves, like Fabio on the Waves kind of bullshit. Which at least, as weird as it sounds, at least when it's fucking it up, in that case, it's fucking it up about with a man, and instead of what we usually see a woman, but no, that isn't right either.
It's those things where it's like it definitely stumbles over it at times, but I just think that like considering it the time period it's in, it's doing so much better than all of its contemporaries. So it's this thing of like, it doesn't make it okay. It doesn't make it okay, but I'm more willing to talk about it. And like, I don't think it's, I can remember one or two episodes that were, where it definitely messes things up. Mm-hmm. But this episode, I think mostly it barely rides that line, and I do think that like the valuable conversation is in how the depiction is done and what it says, and not whether or not we should be depicting these topics.
Right.
Because I'm so tired of let's call it anti-conversation. Because it's like both sort of ends of it is, one end is don't engage with that media at all because it contains these topics. So we can't think about it. No thinking about it. Mm-hmm. And the other end of it is just the author, separate. No, you can't think about it. Don't think about what the author thinks and how it might appear in the work. Don't think about it. And I can't stand not thinking about it because
you're taking me to all of the Star Trek fan forums.
Oh, Star Trek! I just finished a script with Jesse on why billionaires like Star Trek, and
yeah, I'm looking forward to that one coming out because it is true and it is interesting, and yet we've been
editing that one. So.
We've been watching. We've been going through with our friend Charlie, who was our guest on last episode. We've been watching all of the original films.
Oh yeah,
and it's just we just did The Voyage Home, which, as you know, is not woke at all, and it's so very, very subtle.
Yeah, I honestly need to watch all of the original series films and finish watching the original series. You can shoot me for not being adequately Star Trek enough.
This is a safe space. This is very accepting.
Well, no, it's because I write for Jesse, so someone's gonna come after me for that. But Voyage Home is the whale one, right? I'm not misremembering. Yeah. So Jesse, I watched that for the first time with Jesse when I was visiting. And that film is great. It's so good. I love that Leonard Nimoy got to make his little environmentalist passion project. What a strange film. Fascinating commentary on American prejudice against the USSR and Russians and general racism. that just pops up in the weirdest spot. That is a film that is just, it's doing things, and some of them are good, and some of them you're just like, what is happening? There's a lot going on throughout that film.
Yeah.
Whales speak to the alien. Save Earth.
The whales are the ultimate hero in that film.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love some of the practical effects in that movie. I love its special effects. It's got such a specific visual. But yeah, I think when it comes to depicting fascists and saying things too, like you have to have a deep level of specificity and very clear directionality with your commentary. And I do think that Farscape nails that very consistently, and it makes it very clear how it views these people and I also appreciate, like, I appreciate Farscape for being one of the few pieces to adequately depict both the xenophobia and racism of fascism and its relationship to sexual exploitation and sexism, rather than treating them as like you'll get a Handmaid's Tale that only really thinks about the sexism and doesn't think about the white supremacy, or
I mean, the book does, but one of my things is I hate the way they adapted the book, because they left out the most interesting aspects of the book.
Yeah, and also there's just some issues with the book that I this is my own critique, but others have talked about, where it's like it depicts stuff that is currently or is ongoingly happening to Indigenous people, for example, in North America. As like, whoa, wouldn't it be wild if this happened to white people? Like, it's a little bit of that.
That's always the line to cross.
I think I say it as following the logical conclusion that if you keep exploiting the other, you run out of other, and you have to get more narrow and narrow in your definition of other.
The other keeps getting bigger the more you remove of it.
And the thing that makes the book work for me is the epilogue, where future people of color are talking about basically the end of white civilization in this fragment of a...
Okay, that's kind of brilliant. I love that.
And that's what the off-red story is. It's like a fragment. It's like the way that the current academics read the fragments of slave journals. That's the context it's supposed to be in. And I don't think Atwood realized what she was writing in that.
I think most of the problem isn't really with Atwood or even the book. It is with the adaptation. Is that a lot of people didn't engage with those elements of the book, and that's not how they think about the book, and that's not how they talk about the book, and that's not how the book is used as a symbol. Mm-hmm. And because you see it a lot with like turf groups will co-opt imagery of that. The Handmaid's Tale, and it's just like, so y'all didn't understand any of it. It's
like they completely ignore the whole bit about like unwomen and like that. Yeah. The Handmaid's Tale is another good example. Like the show, it is so exploitative and so fetishistic of the violence.
Yeah.
I find it. I watched the first season and I just found it deeply uncomfortable that it's like torture porn.
And that's what I struggle with a lot of stuff that tries to talk about these topics, is that it's just like, I don't feel like this is made for people who've gone through sexual violence.
Yeah.
That's my general opinion on most depictions, is that like, as a victim, I do not feel like this is at all designed with me as being an audience member in mind at all. And it concerns me how it presents itself to the audience it seems to be for, which is people who don't experience that violence or who perpetuate that violence. And I'm just sitting here like, I don't think this is going to put off someone who does that type of violence. If anything, it's turning them on.
Yeah, because there is nothing titillating about being a victim of violence.
No. And if you present it as titillating, I think you completely failed. And Farscape is a show that depicts a lot of things as titillating.
and then knows when not to.
And then it was like, oh, we're not doing that here. Which is like, honestly, I think like props to the costume department on making costumes that feel Farscapey without making them fit into that for episodes like this. Because that is hard with the shape language and costuming language of this series, because the costuming language of this series is your BDSM shop.
Yeah, I think there is someone involved who clearly understands enough about BDSM to be like, it's not the content, it's the context matters a great deal, and you know, we can do things like, you know, strap people into naughty chairs in one context, and we can have people strapped into torture chairs in a very different context, and we can be clear about what the context is.
We can actually show, like, honestly, I think you could do if you really wanted to, you could sit down and edit a bunch of Farscape stuff to show, like, like, this thing sexual, this thing not sexual. Do you see the difference? Because like there is torture chair sexual, and there's torture chair not sexual, and they are both in the same show here. And I find that interesting because, again, this show is playing with specific language in its costuming and in certain things. And so knowing how to use that language still without it slipping into this sort of exploitative angle tells you a great deal about the thoughtfulness that went on behind the show's creation.
So we that really got us off on we tangented, but like I think we thoroughly covered the sort of like around the ethics of presenting this kind of darkness, which is a really important thing to discuss in this episode. Is there anything else in this episode we want to discuss?
I think we kind of covered everything that I could think of. Yeah,
I think the only other thing for me is just general, I guess, fanboyish excitement about where we're going. Like, I know we're so close to the end, and I'm very excited about like the ride that I'm about to get on. You know?
Yeah.
Well, the other thing that I noticed, perhaps because this is like I don't know how many watch of this that are able to notice smaller things, is that I once again really enjoying Dargo's evolution as captain.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we even talked about that in our rewatch. Like he's very good captain in this episode.
Speaking of our rewatch, of course, if you would like to join our Patreon, you can watch our rewatches. Obligatory plug.
Always got to do it.
Okay, so are you ready for the title of the next episode?
The next episode is the first of a 3-parter, right?
Yeah.
Yes. So I'll give you the 3-parter overall title is We're So Screwed. And episode 1 is Hot to Katratzi.
Perfect.
Hey folks, I bet you noticed that I goofed up and gave Josh the wrong episode title for the next episode. The next episode is in fact Fetal Attraction, part 1 of We're So Screwed. So, oops.
So we will be joined by Vera for that episode. And then the following episodes we will discuss as a unit, as they are very much part of the same story.
Sounds good to me.
So that is our plan going ahead. So you can join us in 2 weeks with Vera to discuss Hot to Katratzi. But in the meantime, what is your favorite part of this episode? Aranock?
After you.
I mean, it's gotta be whatever the fuck is going on between Crichton and Scorpius in that blood scene. What?
No heterosexual rationalization for that. No heterosexual explanation at all.
I truly, this is going to out me as a Homestuck fan, but Scorpius and Crichton might be the most interesting cosmesis in media.
I have not watched it, so I don't know that
It's
one.
okay, you don't need to know that. That's deep knowledge of the weird internet.
Josh, what's your favorite part?
Absolutely. The just I can't even describe it. I loved it so much. Like Aeryn's line when she kills the other
that's so good.
Morak.
That's a much
And
better
she-
choice than mine.
I'm glad to know I won't be leaving any orphans. And then, like, that was
I
like
love Aeryn.
James Bond could never.
I also love that scene because it's Aeryn taking like a little bit of power back, even in this
Mhm.
situation.
Yeah, it's very satisfying. Sarah, what about you?
Oh, god damn it. Favorite part.
How do you pick?
Yeah. I find the nurse really fascinating. It's hard to pick a specific moment, but she is so fucked up and so beaten down, and I find her fascinating
Mhm.
as a there but for the grace of I don't know what could so many people be.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I think that's a weird favorite part, but yeah, that's kind of my favorite part.
It's good. No, it's valid.
It's compelling character writing.
Although I do love both of those parts that you both mentioned. Those are just spectacular. The blood vow is just
So wild. It is truly a thing that could only happen on Farscape. Like,
Yeah.
truly. Yeah. Okay, so thank you so much for joining us, Aranock. Do you want to tell the folks where they can find you and what you're working on?
You can find me everywhere at Aranock, Aranock. I am working on a bunch of different things for different people. I'm editing a video for Darkfire right now. I just finished editing videos for Dr. Aeryn McDonald and Axolotl Aristotle, and I'm editing a thing for Jesse that I helped co-write very soon. And then I also have a Love, Death, Robots collab coming out on my channel soon. I don't know when this is going up, so it might already be up or it might not. But yeah, I'm gonna have a bunch of other essayists in that, and it'll be fun. Everyone's doing little mini essays about different episodes or themes within the anthology series Love, Death, Robots.
Cool. And I for one really enjoyed your Death of the Author discussion.
Thank you.
Really got into the sort of philosophy of it, and it was really good.
Proud of that one.
Yeah. Josh, where can people find you?
Well, you might have to take a wormhole into an alternate world in order to find me, but mostly I'm on Instagram at Josh Gosdin. Come on over, hang out. A lot of food content, a lot of self-care content. Sarah, how about yourself?
I'm sorry, I started to make the Fat Culture Critic videos on YouTube. My most recent video was the one about the narratives about weight loss in RuPaul's Drag Race, that which is really disappointing. But I'm also working on I've got a couple scripts that I'm working on at the moment. I don't know if they'll be out. Whether I'm working on a sort of what is wrong with Start with Strange New Worlds season 3. Which Josh does not want to watch because he'll probably end up liking it because you're so generous to like most things anyway. I mean, he likes Man of Steel, so
I knew
you like Man of Steel? Oh,
I do,
Josh.
Aranock, I'm so sorry.
I'm sad for you.
really, really enjoy it a lot, actually.
Everyone should watch Superman 2025, a Superman movie that actually understands the character.
No, unquestionably, I also enjoyed Superman 2025. I went and saw it opening weekend.
Yeah, so yeah, I'm working on some things, and we are in the home stretch of Farscape now. We really are.
I mean, yeah, we're about to slide into home right now.
So yeah, we'd love to hear your comments. We have some ideas about what we're going to do next. But it's been a hell of a ride. So yeah.
Thanks for being here for it.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Aranock, for joining us again. This was I knew this would be a good episode for you.
Yeah, no, it's an easy episode for me to chew on because there's just so much fascism, gender stuff going on.
Yeah. And we tangent a lot because you and I, with gender and fascism stuff, is just gonna.
We're gonna talk.
Yeah.
I should go have dinner with my girlfriend. So
yeah,
I'll leave you all. Thank you for having me.
With that, we will join us again in 2 weeks to talk about Hot to Katratzi with Vera, and take care, everybody, and try to survive the real life fascism as best you can.
Yeah. Stay alive.
Bye.
Bye.
Oh yeah, it's a nightmare outside.
Yeah. And I'm busy. There's fascism going on, but I've got too much going on in my life right now. Chill out.
Could the fascism just pause for 5 minutes for me to catch my breath?
I have dishes to do.
I have dishes to do. Or in this case, a lot of editing and writing and stuff. So
at least you know who let the dogs out. Leave that.
I'm annoyed at myself for laughing at that.
That's how I get you. I know you with my humor.